Hi, I'm Nikita Polikov. I work at Microsoft in the Power Cat team. We help our customers and partners in the community get their best with PowerPages. Today, we're going to look at Contoso. Contoso wanted to build a website to collect feedback because we love our customers. So in this fictitious scenario, we know we can gather feedback from our customers. I've started with a sample basic template that we have here in PowerPages. So let's go take a look at what this site does today before we get started and build on more use cases. Customers can come in and view our site and go to the Contact Us page and leave feedback that they wanted to leave to us. I have a business need to show this feedback to employees of Contoso, and I wanted to select just a few employees that I wanted to see this feedback. I don't want just anybody in public, our competitors, to view this. So let's talk about how we can secure an ability to view this feedback for just a few individuals in our organization. We'll talk about security, identity, and a few new things that you could be experiencing when configuring this with PowerPages. We're going to go back to the studio, and just before this, I've set up a simple page to view feedback. I've placed the list on this form, and we can see that the list is looking at the feedback table and setting up the Dataverse view to see all of the Contact Us form submissions. We can see this page now doesn't have any data. And I expect it to not have any data because I haven't had anybody sign in and I haven't protected this page. So by default, we see that this data isn't actually being surfaced to our customers. This is good. This is what we want. We probably want to secure this page more. So let's find a way to provide permissions and security and set up identity options so our users can navigate to this page securely. And only those who I've chosen will be able to see the data that our customers provided about the feedback. So the first thing that's important when we set up security is to set up permissions. So I'm going to click on the permissions, and we see that there is already a permission that exists. Let's take a look at what's set up. This already came out of the box with this template. Because we needed to create a page to leave this Contact Us feedback, we needed to allow everybody, and we see that all of the roles got selected, including the anonymous users, to be able to create records into the feedback table. So this actually table permission is not just feedback, it's to create feedback. So we can update the name of these permissions to be more specific to our sites and easier for us to understand later. Let's go ahead and just update that for us so it's easier to understand. But we also want to be able to view feedback. So let's create a new table permission to view this feedback. So the permission should be is view feedback. That's the name we have. The table, this is the feedback table, and that's helpful that the tool already selected the same table that our list component is set up for. We'll set up global because today we just want all of our users to see all of the feedback. And we're going to provide the read permission. Now, roles is where things actually get specific. Out of the box, we have 3 web roles that ship with the product. We have administrators, anonymous, or authenticated users. Now, administrator's web role is something that you get as a maker. So myself, Nikita, when I've created this site, when I sign in, I'm going to get the administrator's web role associated with me by default. But that web role is there just to do some more administrative things with the site. So we can just ignore this for the scope of this business requirement for us. We want to invite specific users to our site. But we see that out of the box, we have anonymous users, which is everybody browsing the site, or authenticated users, which is anybody who've registered or signed into our site. So we can start with that. Maybe authenticated users is actually what we need. So we'll select this web role. We'll see that the selection's been made. We're going to save it. Now let's preview our site. I'm going to select desktop and open this page again. Let's see if any of our contact feedback that we provided has been left. Well, we see that the message still stays. You don't have permissions to view these records. Let's sign in and see if that changes. I have a number of options that are presented to me when I choose to sign in. I can sign in, register, or redeem an invitation. We'll talk about more about all these options a little later, but let's just focus on sign in. We know by default, PowerPages ships with settings to allow users to sign in and register at the same time. It's called open registration. This is set up for you by default, and it eases your users to onboard to the site. without having to explicitly click register. An invitation is a way to provide an invitation code and let you actually link a specific user to their contact deliberately. We'll talk about that again later. So for now, let's take a look at the two options presented. We have local sign-in and external sign-in. And these two options are interesting. So in these two options, we can sign in locally, which is just creating a username and password for just this site. We can register, and at this point, you can see that just about anybody publicly, I haven't signed in or done anything, can provide their email address, username, and password and create an account. This is not what I want in this business use case. I want only Contoso employees to be able to sign in. Thankfully for that, we also have the Azure AD option pre-configured for us. Let's take a look at what these options look like in our Maker experience. In the Design Studio, I'm going to go to the Setup workspace, and I'm going to go to Identity Providers section. I can see that the local sign-in is enabled, and this is the default configuration. And I can see that Azure Active Directory is set up by default. I'm going to go and deactivate the local sign-in. I don't want everybody to be able to create a profile and sign into this site because I want really deliberately only my employees to sign in. So this should do that. One thing that you notice, I've made this change. If I go back to my sign-in page, I might not see this change reflected immediately. That's okay. We're going to go back to our studio and on top right, hit preview. You've noticed that there's a little progress indicator that spun for just a second. This cleared the configuration cache. So now I know that when I go back to my sign-in experience, I can see that the change has made effect. So this is great. Now only Contoso employees can sign in. So I'm going to sign in here with my Azure Active Directory account. You notice that I'm actually signed in with my organizational account. This is the same account that I use on my tenant, me as the maker who've created this portal, which means all of my employees have access to this. And this becomes a single sign-on experience for me and my users. You've noticed that I actually don't get a login prompt if my organization chose not to do that. So I can actually get single sign-on experience for my employees. So now when I sign in, you get to see that I have a profile page, and this allows me to change the contact information. Now the contact information I'm changing is actually the contact information in the contact record in Dataverse. So all of our users of our sites and PowerPages are actually contacts. And those contacts can have web roles and other things tied to them. And that's how we actually identify our individuals. Now let's take a look at the actual feedback page and see if something's changed. Great. So now we enabled our site to be able to be logged in by employees of our organization. And if they do, they're able to see the feedback page and able to see the data in the feedback page. That's still not exactly what we want. We want to get more granular and be able to actually give a specific permission to a specific user to be able to see that. Let's take a look at how to get that done. We're going to go back to PowerPages Studio. We're going to go to either table permissions. So you can see all of the table permissions that you've defined across your entire site here. And we see our create feedback and view feedback permission. Let's take a look at our view feedback permission, and let's take a look at the roles. We have administrators, anonymous, and authenticated users, but I think we need more. Let's go ahead and create a deliberate role that we would specifically assign to specific contacts to enable them to view this feedback. Let's uncheck this at this time and go to manage roles. Now we're in a different experience. Let's pause and talk about where we are. We were previously working on the PowerPages Studio. Now we're in the Power App that's called Portal Management. This is the comprehensive administrative and configuration tooling that's available. Because PowerPages actually manages the entire configuration of our site inside of Dataverse, there's actually a comprehensive app to manage all of aspects of your site, and all the finer details and buttons and settings and toggles for your site exist here in this Portal Management app. So here is where we're managing web roles. There's many other things we'll explore. There'll be more videos about that another time. But let's go ahead and create a new web role for us just for the feedback viewers. We're going to call it feedback viewers. And we have to select the website. Now, when I click in this field, there's nothing here by default. I can either search or press enter. And we only have one website in this Dataverse environment today. And that's the site that I'm editing. I don't do anything else. I'm just going to hit save. I do want to call out that these two fields here, while they seem intuitively that you want to set yes and no to these fields, we want to actually pause and understand what they do first. When we go to web roles, we talked about that we had administrator, anonymous, and authenticated user roles that were set up out of the box. We've just created this feedback viewer. If we look at the anonymous users role, we see that it has anonymous users role, yes. Selecting this option makes this web role the default web role for all anonymous users. So we should definitely not take feedback viewer role and select it to be set for all of our anonymous users. Likewise, the authenticated users role, and you can customize and rename this to be more meaningful to your specific project, has authenticated users role set to yes. This means make this web role the automatic role that's assigned to all users who are authenticated to our site. Again, something we don't want with the deliberate web role we have. So this is the correct configuration, feedback viewer, and we don't want this to be defaulted. We want to manually grant this web role to our users. I've mentioned earlier that our users are actually contacts. So when I've logged into the site as Nikita, we can go and find Nikita in the contacts. Now, sometimes when you get to this contacts table, and I've just navigated to it on the left side, you might have to scroll down on this side, find contacts. And sometimes you have to change the view from my contacts to all contacts to see all of the contacts record in this Dataverse environment. Here's where we'll see all of the users who are logging into the portal. I'm going to open myself and see what's available for me. What's important is you can sometimes see different forms. I recommend changing your form to the portal contact form. You do that just by clicking right below the contact here and changing it to the portal contact. That way you get to review the authentication and other details. We can see here that this contact is actually logging in by an external identity. We see the information about the external identity, and we can actually do creative automation around this. We'll talk about this another time, but we see that this user is logging in through an identity provider. We're going to go to related and web roles. And we're going to see that Nikita doesn't have any web roles. Again, this was important because when we're anonymous, we're not even a contact because we've yet to authenticate. When we authenticate, we are a contact, but there's that checkbox on the authenticated web role that says authenticated users role, which means that we actually don't have to associate it, and it's not even associated. So if you're navigating a site and wondering why specific permissions are functioning for you, even though you didn't give it to anybody, the web role of authenticated users with that setting out of the box is what enables any contact to do so without having that web role directly associated. So going back to our business use case, we wanted to deliberately provide our users an ability to see feedback if we wanted them to do so. So I'm going to go hit search here and find that the feedback viewer role is now available for me to select, and I'm going to associate it to Nikita as the user. So we've added this web role of feedback viewer to Nikita. Let's finish setting up the web role and table permission in the Design Studio. Now, back in the Design Studio, we see this view feedback table permission. We needed to make sure we provide the roles, but we don't see the new role that we've just created. Sometimes when you make changes in the portal management behind the scenes, the studio hasn't caught up yet to all of the changes. So we'll have to refresh our experience. So I can refresh the page or use the sync button to sync my configuration. So now let's go back to view feedback, table permission. And now when we add web roles, we see feedback viewer as the web role available. Now, only people with this web role will get the read permission on the feedback table. So let's save this. And to make sure we've cleared our configuration, we're going to hit preview. We see the progress indicator clearing the configuration cache. So now when we see go back to view feedback as Nikita, we continue to see this data. One final thing, when we log out and see the sign-in page, to make it just more user-friendly, we can see that the feedback page says we don't have user permission records. On the sign-in page, we see that the button to sign in says Azure AD. That might not be something that all of my employees can resonate with or understand. Maybe they understand our login by a different name, and in our organization, we use Contoso ID or Contoso employees. It is more friendly. We're going to refer back to one of our documentations called Planning Your PowerPages project. And there's actually a great tip around actually making that more accessible. We can see that there's actually a site setting that we'll need to create in the portal management app to improve this. I'm going to go back to our portal management, find site settings, and create a new site setting. We're going to select the website. We only got one. I'm going to provide a name. Making that button a lot more user-friendly. Now, we're not going to see that change right away. Again, training ourselves that we need to go back to the Portal Studio, hit preview to clear the configuration cache. So now that we see that our sign-in button is a lot more user-friendly to our Contoso employees. So as you can see, this is an important part of building websites and securing them, managing identity options, managing the contacts who are the users of your site, working with web roles, and organizing table permissions into web roles, and that you have a choice to be deliberate with the web role assignment to just a specific context like we have demonstrated in this use case. Please learn more in the follow-on video about how to manage and administer and govern PowerPages sites if topics like seeing the configuration of the sites across your tenant are important to you as an administrator. So thank you for joining us in today's video. More videos are planned in the future, so stay plugged into the PowerPages community. We'll have the link below where you can see the gallery where more videos like this and more will come from both PowerPages, Cat Team, and others across the community. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.